Buddy's influence. Buddy did more than actually influence records I made when I was singing in the Peter and Gordon era. Even when I became a record producer, he was still very important to me. And with Linda Ronstadt, I did several Buddy Holly songs that I produced. She had a big hit with It's So Easy, the great Buddy Holly song, and also we did a version of That'll Be the Day. It was a big hit. And Linda did a terrific version of that song, Guess It Doesn't Matter Anymore, which has always been one of my favorite Buddy Holly songs. Now, when I say Buddy Holly song, that was certainly the category in which I thought of that song, because we learned it off the Buddy Holly single that was a big hit. And it seemed to me that I didn't even check, I don't think, because I was so confident that he must also have written it. Because he wrote most of his own hits. He was an extremely successful songwriter. And also because he wrote kind of naively charming lyrics of a fairly unique and special kind. So when this song, Guess It Doesn't Matter Anymore, had lyrics like golly gee and whoops the daisy in the lyrics, I kind of went, well, that's very Buddy, which it was. But actually, he didn't write it. It was written by somebody writing very deliberately in a Buddy Holly style, you know, for Buddy specifically to sing. Now, the first trivia question of this evening, out of curiosity, does anybody know who wrote that song? Paul Anka, very good. We have a winner up here in the front row. Congratulations. It's interesting because if you didn't know, that wouldn't be your first guess by any means. You know? But Paul Anka is an interesting songwriter. You know, I've actually worked with Paul on a project where he was singing live for me, sang that song in fact. And he is, you know, he's one of the smoothest men in show business. Fully tuxedoed and finger snapping and very tan and everything, you know, all that stuff. But he's also a talented musician and songwriter. And let's not forget, you know, he wrote the lyrics to My Way, you know, the Frank Sinatra anthem. He wrote the original Tonight Show theme, the Johnny Carson era, da 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 da, that one. And of course, he wrote probably his biggest hit, or one of his biggest hits, for himself when he was only 15 years old.
Yeah, Diana.
Diana,
yeah.
Right? A great record.
Mm. Yeah. That was, well, actually, the first 45 I ever bought.
Wow. Yeah. So you personally contributed to his rise to fame.
Well, I personally gave Paul Anka my pocket money.
Well,
that's for sure.
Exactly. Now, let's go back and address this duo issue, because it needs a little bit of sorting out. You know, this duo, as we say, didn't exist. There were two duos, part of the British invasion. There was Peter and Gordon, and there was Chad and Jeremy. And what is weird is that there are a marked number of similarities, as you can see. You know, indeed, I think some people back in that era in the 60s weren't quite sure that we were actually two separate duos.
They were never seen in the same room at the same time.
And, you know, look at it, it's unusual. Because in each case, there was the tall, handsome one who sang the low part, the short, nerdy-looking, wears glasses, and is incredibly brilliant one who sings the high part. So, you know, and we would get credited with each other's achievements as well. They would do some hip TV show that we were never on, and we'd be in a hotel elevator or something, and people would get on, oh, you know, saw you guys on TV last night, you were really good. You know?
Yes, we got completely bored with trying to explain everything. So we would say, you know, the people would come up and they'd say, oh, I love the way you do World Without Love. And we said, yes, very good, isn't it? Thank you so much.
And it continued, you know, the confusion remained in place, and sometimes does to this day. We get people who aren't sure who did which record and so on like that. But it sort of became officially memorialized in a physical form a little while later, because they put out a Chad and Jeremy Greatest Hits album. And it looked like this, you know, Chad and Jeremy, their 15 fabulous hits, blah, 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 and they list all the songs. And then on the other side, they put, as is also customary, several different pictures of the duo. But when I say the duo, if you look halfway at the bottom right picture, it's not Chad and Jeremy at all. It's Peter and Gordon. And this is real. We did not Photoshop. This is a genuine album. Copies of it do exist. In fact, occasionally, when we're doing an after-show sort of signing, which we will be doing tonight, by the way, at the end, we're happy to sign everything, and, new or old. And some people bring a copy of this album. And of course, in this case, we can happily both sign it. Because there we are. So it is all quite extraordinary. And I assumed at the time that this was just, the record company making a foolish mistake. But it turns out there was more to it than that. And Jeremy actually was able to fill me in that there were murkier motives afoot.
Murkier indeed, yes. Peter and Gordon were on a nice big label with great big promotion budgets and all that kind of thing. We were on a tiny little label. We wanted to be on a nice big label. And then Columbia Records, one of the biggest indeed, came along and said they'd like to sign us. So great. So off we went, and we signed with Columbia. And the tiny little label was very cross indeed, and put this out as an act of revenge. Now, the confusion got even more sort of extraordinary later on, because in about, 1968, 69, somewhere in that period, in London, I was in the habit of dropping in occasionally to the Beatles' headquarters in Savile Row in London. Apple, the original Apple, the real Apple, and to see a couple of friends. One of them was Peter here, and the other was a lovely man, the late lamented Derek Taylor, the Beatles' legendary press officer, who was a great friend. And Derek saw Peter and I chatting in the press room one day, and he said, right, that's it, we're going to do a picture that's really going to confuse them this time. Now, what we're going to do, and he had this chair, there you are, that's the rattan chair, he used to hold court in. He said, we'll take the chair, we'll put it over in that corner there. Now, Peter, you sit down, Jeremy, you stand over him, and this will really confuse them. Jeremy, you put on Peter's glasses. And one of the wonderful things about this is that 50 plus years later, Derek's little joke has come true. And I just love it. Anyway, there we go.
Now, the reason I was at Apple, I was in Derek's office visiting, but I was in the building because I was working there. I had just got this new job. Working for the Beatles, running Apple Records. I was head of A&R for Apple Records, in charge of whoever got signed and stuff like that, which of course was a fabulous job to have. And I was there at the beginning. We started in much smaller offices in the posh house in Savile Row. And that was kind of the beginning of a change of career for me, because I'd always wanted to be a record producer, and now I had this job at a label, which was thrilling. And it was while I was there that I met somebody who ended up changing my life in many respects, because a friend of mine called Danny Korchmar, a great guitar player in New York who I'd played with, was then subsequently in a band with a friend of his called James Taylor. That band broke up, and James was going to come to London just because he loved London, and because he had a girlfriend there that he thought he could stay with when he got there. Anyway, Danny gave James my phone number. My phone rings in London. He introduces himself, tells me he's a friend of Danny Korchmar's. I said, great, come on over. He came over the next day, and he played me a little tape he'd made of like 3 songs. And then he picked up my guitar and played me a couple more songs. And I was completely blown away. I thought this was some of the best music, the best singing, best playing, best songwriting I'd ever heard in my life. And we had this bizarrely simple conversation where I said, look, this is a great coincidence. I've got this new job. I'm running a label. I can sign people. Would you like a record deal? He said, yes, please. I'd love one. And that was essentially it. I also discovered that it turned out he could not stay with the girlfriend he thought he could stay with. That's a whole other story. And he had nowhere to live. So he actually ended up moving into my flat for about the next 6 months.
Peter called me and he said, listen, there's this guy who's over here and he's just brilliant. You've got to come over and listen to him. I said, okay. So I went over, and there he was, no idea who he was, long dark hair, very shy, didn't talk much. And then it was sort of, come on, James, sing us a couple of songs. And, you know, I can see it now, I can see him on the sofa sitting there. And he played, I don't know, 5 or 6 songs, something like that. And I went, yeah. No, I didn't. And no, he was great. He was absolutely brilliant. There we go. Anyway.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. I got shot or something.
Ruined suspense. Anyway, so what happened next was I made one James Taylor album for Apple. Then, as you probably know, Apple started to fall apart a bit. The Beatles were breaking up, all that stuff. So at that point, that was the sort of next career change, because I decided that James and I agreed that I would become his manager, bet my career on his, and I moved to Los Angeles and set up a management company. And once I'd done that, James was the beginning, because I started off with James, but I signed a whole lot of other artists, many of whom, by the way, as the manager, I was delighted enough to book into my father's place in the old incarnation. So about half the people I'm about to list that I started managing, beginning with Linda Ronstadt, who certainly played here several times, and all these other people were other people I managed, and many of them, James Taylor, Linda Ronstadt, Joni, a lot of other people, of course, played in this legendary club many times. I think Effie's role in the development of all these musicians is one not to be understated. He's a key figure in all that. So I was having a great time in LA working with all those people. And, you know, during that time, which covered several decades of management, I had a great time with it, and I also was lucky enough to win a few Grammys and so on.
Hang on a minute. Lucky enough to win a few Grammys, okay? Now, I've been in this room. This is Peter's office here. And all I can tell you is there is gold everywhere. There are gold records here, gold awards everywhere, gold. It's, I mean, the decor is positively Trumpish. The decor.
No, I'll never be able to look at my Grammys the same way again.